Welcome, everyone, to Seattle Sports Union Podcast. Matt, the delightful duck, that's right, delightful, is back here hosting. Been a long time. With Brian, the Soulman Solack, we've got Abraham on the boards, and joining us back in Everett this year will be Coach Ryan. How's it going back and are you okay? Let's just circle back. It's been a while. I'm sorry, I'm rusty on the intros. How's it going, Coach Ryan?
Good. Everything's good down here in Arizona right now for spring training here, the last week and a half or so of spring. So just ready to get going up there in Everett.
Before we really dive in deeply, there's a burning question that I've had, and I mentioned it to Brian earlier. I was wondering, we missed you last year,
Yes.
and we didn't have out there in front of us there in Everett, and I was wondering if you had a fan club who heckled you positively like we do in Everett down in Arkansas.
Not as consistently as you guys did. We had some great fans out there in Little Rock and a lot of really good people and a couple people that would sit over by the third base coaching box in that stadium that I would get to talk to here and there, but none of the heckling that you guys would bring on the day to day.
Outstanding. All right. Obviously, we weren't fortunate to have you with us last year, but you were with Arkansas. What was it like going up to AA Arkansas? I mean, tell us a little bit about how the year went for you.
Yeah, it was a great year up there. And fortunately, it was with a lot of players that I'd already had in Everett over the last 2 years prior. So it was good to have a group that I knew the guys pretty well and I knew what they needed in the day to day and what really they needed to prepare each day. So that made my job a little bit easier. So that's going to be the fun part this year is pretty much with a whole new group that I haven't had before. But that group we had in Arkansas last year, the staff was phenomenal with Seth and Cameron, who I'd had the year prior in Everett on my staff. Dan LeBerry is my trainer. So it was a great group that we had out there in Little Rock. We had a lot of fun, played pretty well for the most part and just kind of faltered a little bit down the stretch and with a chance to win the second half. But overall, it was a good year, a good learning year for me. And hopefully we got a lot of players better and getting some guys closer to the big leagues this year.
You said good learning experience for you. What's one new thing that you learned there that you might bring in, to Everett this year to apply to your coaching?
Yeah, so I think just getting up to AA and having players that really are a phone call away from getting to the big leagues, where the Mariners especially have called a number of guys up from AA in the past, dealing with players that are at a different stage in their career and learning how to navigate a lot of those conversations in the day to day, which is the most fun part of my job anyway, whether it's in Everett, whether it's in Arkansas, or whether no matter where I'm at, honestly. But the conversations I had with guys were maybe a little bit different last year with guys knocking on the door of the big leagues, as opposed to guys like the conversations I had with guys in Everett the years prior, where I'm just trying to get them to AA at that point. The guys in AA are trying to get themselves to the big leagues, maybe that year at some point during the season. So conversations change a little bit in what they're trying to focus on and what we need to do to get them ready day to day. But so I think the biggest learning point for me came in how to have more, I guess, conversations with guys that are at the upper levels and are really knocking on the door of the big leagues. So it was a really good year for me in that regard.
Did you get to have that conversation of, hey, you're going to the bigs with anyone last year?
No, I didn't get to call anyone up directly, sadly. We were close a couple times, but it was cool that Brandon Garcia and Juan Burgos, who started out, I had in Everett the year prior, both in Arkansas last year, both ended up making it to the big leagues and then getting traded to the Diamondbacks. So it was cool that those guys both did end up making the big leagues last year. Just sadly, I wasn't the one to be able to call them up.
Yeah. Next time.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So we want to know if you may have heard that we had a pretty good year in Everett last year. What do you think we're going to do? We're gonna better that. We're gonna beat that this year. You're gonna build us another championship repeat.
That's the plan. The plan's to come in there and win ball games and help get players to the big leagues. So if we can win a lot of ball games along the way, that's what the plan is, and that's what our staff were really excited for. With hope potentially some of the group we're going to have, we don't know any full rosters yet, and we won't honestly until probably a day or two before we get out to Everett and get the season going. We're just excited for the group we're going to have potentially, and really just to get out there and go through the day to day with these guys and try to get them through 132 games and hopefully win a lot of those.
Right
Now,
on.
sorry, Brian, one more real quick question. Now, you mentioned last year you were working with some of your manager team that you're familiar with. You have new folks this year, don't you? Have you worked with them before?
Yeah, so Chase Miller, our hitting coach this year, he came up when Seth Mejias Breen went on paternity leave last year. Chase came up and filled in his Seth's spot during the season. So I had Chase for about 3 or 4 weeks last year, so I got to know him pretty well, which was great. He's awesome. Brian Paul and I have both been around the organization for a while, and I think we were both playing at the same time. At some point, we were both playing in the organization at the same time. So we'd crossed paths plenty before. So I knew BP coming in. So I'm really excited to have him. And then we have 2 brand new coaches to the organization that are going to be with us as well. So just extremely excited for the staff we got. Max Miller will be coming back as the strength conditioning coach. Same guy who was there last year. And Max was great. I had him when I worked the fall league a couple years ago. And then Blake Wood will be our trainer. And Blake was in Modesto the last couple of years. So he had Zach Vinci a couple of years prior to that. And then was with our low A staff and Luis Caballero and Modesto last year. So excited to have Wood up there with us. So excited for the staff. It'll be another new challenge, getting to work with a staff that I haven't worked with before, which is going to be the fun part, that we all kind of get to learn and grow together and get to get these players better.
Right on. I got to go revert back real quick to Arkansas real quick. Were there any games that it was like really, really hot in the field and you couldn't tolerate it, but you sucked it up and you stayed hydrated and said, "Go team, go"? I mean, I don't think I could coach in that heat. I mean, how hot did it get?
Yeah, it gets pretty hot. It does late July into August, and we went down to Corpus Christi at one point where it gets extremely humid. You're right there on the Gulf of Mexico, so it was definitely hot on some of those Sunday 1:00 games. But at that point, we just have to embrace it. It's hot for everybody out there. We're not the only ones dealing with the heat, so both teams are dealing with it. So whoever can be more prepared and stay on top of their hydration, stay on top of their preparation going in, and understand how to kind of manage the workload beforehand, and then understanding that the game is the most important part of our day. So anything we can do to make sure those players are going to stay hydrated. It's easy for me. I don't do a whole lot. I jog over to the third base coaching box and maybe put on a few signs here and there. So it's tougher for the players. And especially I was a player in Little Rock and had to catch Sunday day games in August. So I know what it's like to catch those games. So I had some experience to be able to help some of those catchers with. So especially guys like Connor Sharping and then Freddie Bautista late in the season last year after he came up, helping those guys stay on top of their hydration and their preparation and being ready to go each day. But yeah, I wasn't the one who had to deal with a lot of the heat. I was okay. I'd be in the shade for half the game in the dugout anyway. So those guys had to deal with the heat the most.
Right on. And I got one more question. I can't believe I never asked this to anybody, so I guess I'll ask you: Are minor league players responsible for bringing their own like bats and cleats, or does the team provide bats? I've always been curious.
Yeah, so majority of the equipment players have will be on their own. The teams will
Okay.
always have bats. Call them kind of like the pro stocks is what we call them. They kind of mass order a bunch of bats from whatever company is giving the organization or the team the best deal on a number of bats. So you will see a lot of players using very similar bats, and those are the ones that you'll probably call the pro stocks that guys are getting, which the wood's still good back in my early days of playing and the days when, let's say, the 80s and 90s, the pro stocks weren't always great wood, and it'd be better if you could get a bat deal and order your own bats and have some better wood. Nowadays, the bats are all pretty dang good. So knowing that, like, the players most guys get their own bats. They always order bats through their agent. All the guys will get their own cleats, whether they order them online, whether they get them through their agent, whether they go to Ross Dress for Less and find the baseball cleats off the shelf, whatever it might be. Because I had to do that a number of times during my career.
Okay.
So guys are always in charge of their own things. They get their own gloves. They all like certain types of gloves, however they want to break them in, and certain companies. So everyone's going to be different. And really the only thing that might be similar are the bats guys use, because if they break a bat, they're going to have another one they need to be able to bring down.
Okay. That's interesting. No, appreciate you sharing that. 2 years ago, I asked you on the podcast if you could do a suicide squeeze during the season, and you smiled and said, I don't remember what exactly said, but
we'll see, or something like that.
Yeah. And I don't know if I ever saw it happen, which I get, but can we? Did you number one? Did you call one last year in Arkansas? Number two, can we get one in this year?
Did not call one last year at all. I can promise you I did not call one last year. I would remember that. I did put on, maybe 2 or 3 bunts all season last year in certain situations. So you never know. You never know what's going to come out. Well, let's put it that way. The right situation with the right hitter and the right game. And who knows? They'll never take it off the table. But I guess if I had the same response last time, we'll see.
Okay.
I'm curious about that, with the organization and today's philosophy around analytics. How big of a focus is there on bunting in the game?
Yeah. So the way we kind of look at it is based on, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds with some things, I guess, but looking at expected runs and the run value and all that. So if we have first and second, nobody out, the expected runs we're going to score in the inning based on the history of baseball really is how they take these. Let's say you're on average with first and second, nobody out, you're going to score 1.5 runs every time you have first and second, nobody out, just based on the history of baseball. Every time there's been first, second, nobody out, on average, the team scores 1.5 runs. If you get to second and third and have one out, so basically if you got a bunt down, you go second and third, your value doesn't change at all. So that's kind of the way we look at it. And we'll take it in the minor leagues of we want guys to be able to swing the bat and drive in runs. So there's a little bit of that, whatever you want to call it, like a little bit of a game to play with. How do we want to develop these guys? We want to develop this guy to learn how to get bunts down, which is a real thing because they get to the major leagues, you're going to have to get a bunt down. And when you're getting bunts down in the major leagues, it's normally happening against a really good bullpen arm in the 9th inning, in the 10th inning, when you need to score runs. It's something that guys definitely need to practice, but never going to prioritize a guy getting bunts down for him being able to get a hit or put together a good at bat in a situation where he needs to drive in some runs. There's always kind of that little cat and mouse game with that one of what do we want to do in this situation. And we definitely will get some bunts down at some point, and maybe some guys who might be prospects will get bunts down at times. But the vast majority of times, I want them to swing the bat. I want them to understand how to get a good pitch to hit and hit hard.
Fair enough. I can't think of the name, but isn't tomorrow like the spring game for all the top prospects for the Mariners?
Yep, spring breakout game tomorrow.
Okay, are you
Breakout game, yes.
breakout game? Okay, I mean, how does that work? Do you guys, do your morning routine and then you get to go watch them play? Or I'm curious. I mean, I think that'd be kind of cool. Have a staff meeting and go watch all the young kids perform.
Yeah, so that game will be at 2:00 tomorrow, and with us in minor league camp, historically, like Vincey's they've been the manager for that game with winning championships the previous years. It's kind of been like the reward, if you call that, for winning championships. Okay. Now with Zach moving into a coordinator role, I actually got asked to be the manager for that game. So I'll be managing that spring breakout game tomorrow and some of our staff. So yeah, that'll be cool. Be cool to see a lot of our young players that I haven't seen yet. And I know we've been playing minor league spring training games, so I've gotten to know a majority of our guys now. And we're going to have some guys that I've had over the last couple of years in Arkansas and in Everett the years before. So it'll be a good mix of players I've had before and players I haven't, and go out there and see these guys play. And then in one game against the Brewers at their place, we play at 2:00 in the afternoon. So it'll be hot. It's been a hot spring training down here so far, but should be a fun one tomorrow to watch those guys go out there, compete, and try to win a game. And I know our game's on MLB Network, so guys might be a little bit juiced up. So it'll be a fun one for those guys to go out there and play and see what they got.
Do we have a starting pitcher name? Sorry, Matt. Do we have a starting pitcher tomorrow you can tell us?
I probably am not at liberty to discuss anything with any of that. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
No, we respect that.
I just wanted to first say congratulations on that honor. That's awesome to hear. And second of all, how is that roster constructed? Do you guys, do the managers at the various levels provide any input? Does the front office just decree and this is the list, or do they ask for your input? How does it work?
From what I know, it's straight, just the organization puts this together. I don't know who all has a hand in it, but it's not necessarily on us as coaches. I'm guessing it's more front office and player development type roles. Don't have a whole lot of understanding of what goes into those rosters.
Reed Van Scooter, you've had the pleasure to coach a couple times over the years. Huge fan. He's been on our show too, but that's besides the point. I heard he's moving to the bullpen. Is that correct? Are you allowed to say that?
I am actually not 100% sure yet, to be honest with you. I haven't been around Reed a lot this spring with him being in. I haven't seen him pitch in any of my games. I've been managing our Everett games here down in spring training, and Reed's mostly been throwing in the Arkansas games. So I haven't been around Scoot too much. I've had a couple conversations with him, but nothing that's been centered around what his role is going to look like this year. But whatever role we get Scoot into, I know he was starting for us last year in Arkansas. And he's always going to go out there and compete, and that's one of his best tools is that he's a competitor and he's a dog when he's on the mound. So whatever kind of role he's going to get into and whatever's going to help him get to the big leagues and then ultimately stick in the big leagues, I know that's the part he cares about. So who knows what the role is going to start at in the season, and maybe if he does start in the bullpen, maybe they need some length later on and he goes back to starting. But again, that's not my decision. Those decisions are above my pay grade over here. So, but regardless, no matter what role Scoot's in, he's going to go out there and dominate. And he's an ultra competitor, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch pitch.
Absolutely. Right on. Right on. Do the Seattle Mariners every year, do they have different goals for you, the managers, you, the coaching staff? Or, I mean, I'm curious, like single A has to get this, you have these goals, and double A, we got more goals for you, or how does that work? I mean, or do they do as an entire organization from top to bottom? You tell everybody they focus on this and that.
Yes, we have organizational things, I guess, that we want to focus on, not necessarily goals, I would say.
Okay.
I would say the only goals that the front office or people would have for us and the coaching staff is to, one, be consistent every single day, and be the person your players like. Make sure the players know who's going to show up to the field every day. Don't be one
Okay.
person one day and a different person another day. So I would say definitely that. Of just keep the consistency, make sure the players know who you are, get to know the players really well, do everything we can to ultimately get these players to the major leagues and win games. That's all we want to do in this organization. So not a lot of very direct goals for us. Just do everything we can to help get these players better. However, that's going to look. It's going to look different at every level. The manager in low A, Luis Caballero, has a completely different job than I have, who has a different job than your double A manager, Rich Thompson, who has a completely different job than the triple A manager, John Russell.
Okay.
Depending on the level, it's always going to look different in the day to day. And obviously games are never going to be the exact same. The roster is never going to be the exact same, and kind of how the players mesh. So not necessarily any distinct goals. It's just they give us some freedom to go out there and try to lead a ball club and get players better. And that's one of the beauties of this organization, is that we have a lot of autonomy with our job as managers and as coaches. So it's extremely fun for me that I get to go out every day and find a way to get these players better, win baseball games in Everett, and then try to get these players to the major leagues.
That's awesome. Seriously. I learned a lot from what you just said. I mean, that I never knew about. Good stuff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, spring training, me and Abraham had a chance about, I guess, wow, okay, it was like 3 weeks ago. We were there at the turn of the month, and it decided to be 90 degrees for us the 3 days we were there. Has it been quite as hot that the rest of the time?
It has been way worse as of late.
Oh,
It was 100 degrees yesterday. It was 102 today. It's going to be maybe 104, 105 tomorrow. So
wow.
this is the hottest spring that I can remember for some time. And I think this is 13 spring trainings in a row for me now, and this is as hot as I can remember one being. So, yeah, it's been pretty hot. I know our major league team has moved to majority just night games now. They're rescheduling everything to night games, so guys aren't getting
Wow.
burnt out in the sun.
Yeah.
This 2 o'clock spring breakout game is going to be a hot one here tomorrow.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you how it had changed the routine from year to year. We were there, and we were out in the practice fields, and we were waiting on some of the major league pitchers to come out and do some tossing, and like nobody came out because it was just so hot. And I noticed some players were like, "Why are we out here? This is too hot." Get pretty crazy. Reminds me why I don't want to live in Arizona anymore. I used to live there a while back, long while ago. Brian, you have oh yeah, I'll ask a question for Brian's all-time favorite player. He runs the fan club here in Everett for Victor Labrada.
Mhm.
If you've seen him around at spring training and at all, have you seen him at high?
Yeah, if you don't see Victor, you're gonna hear him. He's always bringing the energy, and he's always got his voice. So, always one of my favorites. And like I said, he's working out with the older group. He came down from big league camp, and he's been with the Arkansas group down here. And we just put guys in a different work group. So guys that come down from major league camp normally always filter into just whatever the oldest work group is. So we have those that are work groups. So I'm not around Vic a lot, but trust me, I'm always seeing him. Whenever I see him, I always say what's up. I always talk to him a little bit and kind of try to get him going. And he's always bouncing around. If he's hitting in the cages with his group and we have some practice going on in another field, or BP going on in another field, he's out there still chirping and still making noise and making sure he's getting heard. And it's really cool to watch Victor be such a good teammate for a lot of these young guys too. And how, like, it's cool seeing how many guys are attracted to him and the energy that he brings every day. So a lot of our young guys that are maybe going to be in Arizona this year are going to be in low A for the first time, traveling out to an affiliate, and seeing them like kind of gravitate toward Victor a little bit, maybe ask questions. I don't always understand the Spanish that they're speaking, but I can imagine there's probably a lot of questions about how Victor has kind of gotten to the point he's gotten to in his career, because he made himself a big turnaround in his career in 2024 when he pushed himself from Everett to get himself up to Arkansas after the hot start that he had. So extremely like fortunate to know Victor and the energy that he brings. And he's always been one of those guys that you can always rely on to put in the lineup. And as he continues to go and hopefully gets himself a chance in the big leagues here soon. But yeah, Vic's the best, man. I'm always very fortunate to get to have a conversation with Victor because I know it's going to brighten my day.
Could you see him as a coach in the organization or any baseball organization once he's done with baseball?
I think so. And hopefully that's going to be in 20 years or so. And hopefully he has a
Yeah.
nice long playing career. But he definitely has, I don't know what the right word is, I guess the care factor for his teammates that you see in a lot of people that become good coaches. That he wants his teammates to get better. He wants his teammates to succeed. And it's a really contagious thing because the other guys around him are going to, like I said, gravitate towards that and
Yeah.
ask him questions. And he's very, very, very knowledgeable on what he's doing. He's a good outfielder. He's a great base runner. He's a phenomenal hitter. So he has a lot of knowledge he can bring. So I could see down the road, hopefully 20 years from now, Victor being a phenomenal coach for somebody and getting a lot of players better.
Nice. You're headed to Everett, obviously, but I want to talk about the greatest baseball announcer in minor league, Pat Dillon, who everybody knows who works in Everett for the last 30 years.
We're not biased or anything.
Oh, but we had him on a few weeks ago, and he talked about greatest players over and coaching staff over that his tenure. He mentioned your name as one of them and said great things about you. And I just curious, what are your thoughts about him?
That's extremely kind of Pat. I always had a great relationship with Pat. He's been one of my favorite people I've been around, and he's helped us out a ton. So I'm very fortunate to have Pat around, and I'm extremely excited to have him back. And those are very, very kind words coming from Pat and knowing who he's been around throughout this organization and people that have been here in the past. So very, very kind of him. And I'm looking forward to getting to see him again and get to talk some baseball with him.
Very nice. How's the golf game?
Golf game's good. Golf game's been pretty good. I've played only twice this spring. I've been out here since February 10th, and it's March 19th. I've only played twice. So it's been a pretty busy spring work-wise and hanging around the field, getting a lot of stuff done this spring. So I've gotten out there for 2 off days. Golf game's feeling pretty good. Got 2 scores in the 70s so far this spring. So I can't complain about that.
Wow, that's impressive.
Nice.
Since we talked to you last, this is a question for our audience and the fans. What do you like to do besides golf in your free time?
Dude, now I do enjoy reading sometimes. So a lot of bus rides I'll read if I'm in the mood, if I'm not too tired, because if I'm tired and I start reading, I'll probably fall asleep. A lot of the bus rides I like to read, but also I enjoy being outside. I know there's a spot down when I was in Everett the 2 years I was there. I found a nice trail down in Bothell area. I'd go down there and just go walk the trail in the morning sometimes, especially on off day mornings, or even some mornings when I felt like I just wanted to sit in my apartment before I went to the field. I'd go down there and just go for a walk, get my body moving. I enjoy working out and just kind of keep myself active. And I know if I'm just sitting around, my brain's going to start spiraling and going a million miles an hour, and I start thinking about things, and then I want to get on my computer and start working and doing other things. So I like to get myself out and keep myself active. So that's probably the biggest thing. I do enjoy fly fishing a little bit. My dad's been a huge fly fisher, so I haven't gone in probably 2 years now, but I've always enjoyed fly fishing when I've gotten to go with my dad and my grandpa. My dad's an avid fly fisher, and he coaches professional baseball. He's with the Rockies the last 17 years. So his off days in Denver, he would always go out and fly fish out there. So I haven't been on that level, and I know there's some good fishing up in Everett. And I wasn't able to do it my 2 years there, but I did go buy a rod and reel to do some bass fishing in Arkansas last year, which is a phenomenal bass fishing location. I do, like I said, it's just another thing. If I can get myself outside and kind of keep myself active, keep myself busy a little bit, and kind of detach from baseball the times when I can, because it's extremely hard to do during the season. So you got to find those times when I can kind of detach for an hour or 2 hours or so, and just kind of let the brain settle down and kind of regroup for the next week.
Very nice.
When you were last year in Everett, what did you do as your free time?
Already golf. I would normally golf on off days most of the time. There's a lot of really good golf up in the Pacific Northwest. I would try to explore and get out there, and fortunately had some staff with Cameron Ming and Sergio Placencia who would want to go golf, and Seth Mejias-Breen, Mike Francoso the year before. So a lot of guys who would want to get out there and go play some golf. So we'd keep ourselves busy that way and kind of build a little bit of rapport when we get out there on the golf course for 3 or 4 hours or so.
So you got a golf game in mind for your new coaching staff potentially, maybe?
Yeah, I'll have to kind of get these guys get these guys out there. We'll get a couple staff outings on some Mondays, and fortunately, I know the AAA staff really well. And Seth Mahita-Sprain, who was in Everett 2 years ago, he was my hitting coach in Arkansas last year. He's going to be in AAA this year, so I know down there. And Eric Ferris, who used to manage in Everett, he's the bench coach down in Tacoma, and he's an avid golfer. And Seth likes to play some golf too, so I'll get down there and maybe meet those guys down at Tacoma if we have a shared off day and go play with them. And it's always good to see them if we get a chance to get together during the season, because we kind of get pretty isolated to our own staffs once the season gets going. So it's always good to kind of branch out a little bit and see some of the other guys you spend all spring training with. So it'll be good to go see those guys if we get a chance to.
You guys ever get together, go bowling?
Not a lot of bowling during the season. We did do a staff outing going bowling this spring. So I bowled for the first time in probably a couple years this spring.
Okay. It just seems like it could be some fun. The weather's always bad up here, so go indoors. Sorry. Would you say you're a player's manager? I mean, everybody we talk to love how you ran the clubhouse and you're always chatting with everybody. Are you a player's coach, would you say?
Yeah. I would like to think I'm a player's manager. I definitely try to do everything that I can for the players, and I try to detach myself from as many things as possible. And I'm not doing any of this stuff for me. I enjoy my job because of what kind of impact it can create for the players, and hopefully change someone's career and maybe change someone's life by changing their career. So everything I do is for the players. There's that certain give and take of, do you necessarily want to be friends with the players all the time? I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but I do want to build relationships with these guys, because if I know about them and I know what makes them tick and I know what they need on a day-to-day and I know who they are as a person and what they value, that's ultimately how I'm going to be able to help these guys the most. So the more I can have conversations with these guys, the better I can get to know them, the better I can ultimately, hopefully, help them become a better baseball player, because I can talk to them in a way that they're going to understand a message and try to speak it in a way that they'll understand and be able to register and hopefully apply. Each guy's different, which is the cool thing about this job. Is we have 30 guys on our roster in Everett, and all 30 have different personalities, and all 30 are different people. And so all 30 might hear the same message a completely different way. So it's how well can I get to know these guys to where I understand how to change this message from, just say, going off players I had last year, going from like a Connor Charping to a Hunter Fitzgerald to a Hogan Windish to a Blake Rambush. Like, all of them are going to hear a message a different way. So how can I frame this in a way that this guy's going to understand it? It's definitely, everything I do is for the players. There's times you got to be hard on them. And there's times you can kind of, I don't know, be a little bit more buddy with them, I guess is the way you want to put it. But even those times you're hard on them, like I guess the way to put it is, I'm always going to tell them the truth, and sometimes the truth isn't always the easiest thing to hear. And
True.
I just know that when I was playing, I always wanted to hear the truth, and so I'm never gonna not deliver a player the truth just because it's easier for me to not have to say it. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. These guys, they want to get to the big leagues. They want to provide for their family. They've loved this game for as long as they've lived. So anything I can do to help them, that's all I want to do. And so I would hope that the players would see me as a player's manager and a guy that will always put them first ahead of anything for my own gain or any of our staff's gain. And the players are always going to be number one.
Right on. We can promise you 2024, they saw you as a player's manager.
I have a two-parter question. One, sounds like, and you can confirm or deny, building those connections with the players, the individual connections with players, sounds like it's kind of your favorite part of the job, and you seem pretty passionate about it. And the second part of my job would be, what's the toughest or least favorite, but really more like toughest part of the job for you?
Yeah, I definitely would say that is my favorite. And just, you get to meet so many people in this job, and the players, like I said, we have 30 players on the roster at one time. You could have up to 40 or 50 throughout a whole season if guys are getting moved. So it's constantly getting to know guys and constantly getting to learn what makes guys tick. So that definitely is one of my favorite parts of the job. And I hope that's seen when people do come out to the ballpark. They can see that I have a care factor for these players, and I want these guys to succeed. So I hope everyone can always realize that. I think the toughest part about this job ultimately is those times when you do have to release a player and the organization makes a decision, and finding the way so the player knows that hopefully this isn't the end of their career. This is just kind of a little speed bump in the road, and this is the decision that's made right now, but it doesn't define who they are as a person. It doesn't define who they are as a player. And there's still a lot of good players that get released, get to the big leagues all the time. So there's always still light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Trying to find a way to get a guy to understand that and know that getting let go is not the end of the road. Ultimately, it doesn't mean any less of them as a person and as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. And to confirm, yes, it absolutely does come across to the fans in the stadium that you do care. You are there for their benefit, and you're trying to help on a daily basis.
Would you say you and your dad have similar coaching qualities, or are you guys totally opposite in the way you manage your team or coach your team?
I would think we're very similar. I don't get to interact with him a lot as he's coaching nowadays. I guess when I was in high school and I'd be around him then, I could see. So I would imagine a lot of what I do coaching now stemmed from him and how he coached, because I got to watch him coach when I was in high school before I got myself into playing professional baseball. And we have a lot of conversations and all that during the season and during the off season, especially. And we're extremely close. We do a lot of things the same. He enjoys to golf. We talk about a lot of the same things. We have very similar interests. So there's probably a lot of overlap in what we do as coaches and how we speak to players. And it is one thing that I learned from him from early on when I was getting into coaching. Right after my career ended after the 2019 season, I decided to pursue a career of coaching. And one thing that he had always told me is basically what we had just talked about: of none of this is about you. The players don't always need to hear your story or your opinion on things. They just want to know the truth. They want to know that they're going to feel supported and that you're by their side all the time, or they don't have to feel like they're by themselves in this journey. Because like I said earlier too, that's how I felt when I was a player. I had some phenomenal coaches that I would always give a lot of credit to for shaping me into not just the player that I became, but the coach now and the person, the human being that I am. So I try to do as much of that as I can for these guys. And I would say a lot of that came from my dad and just getting to have conversations. I've been able to see him now. He's with the Angels as their assistant pitching coach in the big leagues. So getting to see him a couple times this spring training and having some dinners with him when we've had some family in town and still talking about the same stuff. He talks about his pitchers. I talk about my players and talk a little bit of baseball and some general coaching things. And I'm sure there is things we do differently, but I know that a lot of what we do and a lot of what we talk about just as coaches in general and as teachers for these players, it's always going to be pretty aligned.
One more quick question, hypothetical, but I think it's going to happen. 5 years, let's say 2030, you're up in the big leagues, you're managing the Mariners, and your dad is going to be interim manager for, I'll still say he's with the Angels, and you guys face off in a game. Who's going to win? Who's a better manager?
Oh shoot, I would hope I would, to be honest. I know.
Good answer.
If it's 2030 with the group of players we have in the minor leagues right now that'll be in the big leagues, I know we're going to be in a good spot because the Mariners farm system's in a great spot, or the big league team's in a great spot. So it's a good time to be a Mariner right now, that's for sure.
Right on. Good answer. And hopefully your dad watches it so he hears that.
I'll send him that clip. I'll send that part to him.
Perfect. Are we wrapping up, Matt?
Yeah, so we're nearing the end of our show here. We want to thank you again for your time. We usually end the show with some shout outs. Everyone gives a shout out to a person, place, thing, noun, verb, whatever that they that they want to give a shout out to in their life. I'll hand it to Brian first, and then we can hit you last, Coach, so you can think it up real fast on your feet.
I want to give a quick shout out to my oldest child. They turned 27 years old earlier this week. Just hope you had a wonderful day, and Mom and Dad miss you and love you. Hope to see you soon.
Awesome. On the boards, Abraham is giving a shout out to Logan Gilbert as the opening day starter.
Nice.
I'm going to give a shout out to my buddies Brian Soulman Solack and Abraham DeWeese for a fun bachelor party this past weekend, and putting my name up on the boards, apparently advertising for what was it, Orkin Pest Control or something. There was a message up on the boards here in the local Everett arena. And Steve Wiltz, the MC for the AquaSox, is also the Silvertips MC, and shout out to him for bringing me up on the audio as well. Ryan, you got one?
Yeah, I'll shout out my brothers and their two kids, my niece and nephews. So they're a big part of my support system. And so shout out to my brothers and my niece and nephew and their wives, who are phenomenal moms. And then shout out to my fiance. So I'm just excited for a fun year this year.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is
And
there a
with
wedding
that-
set? Wait, I got to
Go ahead.
interrupt now.
All right.
Real quick, is there a wedding set? If you're allowed to say.
Nothing set. Nothing set in stone yet. Still in the process of trying to plan.
Okay.
I got you beat. I got 29 days. So
Well, there you go. Well, congrats to
coming.
you as well.
thanks. And with that, I will say thanks for joining us today for Matt, the delightful duck, not the dirty duck, the delightful duck. Brian Soulman Solack and Abraham DeWeese on the boards. This was Coach Ryan Scott, Everett AquaSox. Come on out to Everett this summer and watch them play. They're a fun watch. Great time at the ballpark. And that's all I have to say.
Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.